Welcome, D.S.M.P. subscribers and new Templars. I'm Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka 𝕯𝖚𝖚 the Mapmaker. And in this video, I'm going to be presenting for the first time and doing a walkthrough of our brand new diagram just released titled the Seed Oil Map. And this, you see it right here behind me. The poster is 18 by 24, and we've already released this as a print. It is not currently a free download, but we also do have t-shirts and shorts of this. So the seed oil map has been an idea that I have been working on for over a year, probably. We have a whole sort of category at D.S.M.P. separate from the politics and the conspiracies and the CIA stuff that is related to health and healing. And it all began with the Healing Web, which was released in 2019. And ever since I did that diagram, I wanted to create an improved version of it, more detailed on the side of holistic health, which then became the Infinite Life Vortex, released in 2024. After releasing the Infinite Life Vortex, I went to a health and healing retreat called Bioculture in Mexico and met a lot of the health and fitness influencers that I had been following on Instagram. And a subject that a lot of them have been talking about was seed oils. And while I've warned against seed oils on a lot of my previous diagrams, like Healing Web and Infinite Life Vortex, I wanted to create a diagram specific to seed oils to really hammer home this point. So that is how the seed oil map was conceived. And as you will see, this is not, the most detailed diagram of all of the ones I've created. The idea for D.S.M.P. was not to always have like the full entire page of micro text data, but it is meant to be eye-catching, meant to be a little bit shocking, meant to be a little bit tough love to people who may be wanting to lose weight and not sure why they are overweight in the first place. And seed oils may be one of the main culprits. So I want to kick this off with reading what I have written as the official description of this diagram, which will be included on the product listings, of course, and as well as on the back of the printed flyer. And so here it is. Since the 1980s, Big Food began pushing vegetable oils as heart-healthy alternatives to more traditional fats used in cooking for centuries. The result has been an explosion in obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. Now, the Hateful 8 seed oils can be found in virtually all processed foods, silently worsening the obesity epidemic for all who neglect to read ingredient labels. This infographic refuses to sugarcoat the ugly truth. Humanity has a big problem around the waistline, and we need to stop normalizing being unhealthy. We hope to raise awareness of the hidden killer in seed oils and other modern dietary vices so that people can live longer, look better, and enjoy life more in the 21st century. I do want to emphasize in this video that seed oils are not the only cause of the obesity epidemic. I think, to name a few other major culprits, sugar, and especially sodas, Coke, Pepsi, are some of the other main culprits. However, it is seed oils that may be right up there with sugar. And why did I want to focus so exclusively on seed oils for this one rather than sugar? Well, I feel like sugar and soda is maybe a little bit more obvious. When I'm in the grocery store and I see people shopping, whenever I see someone, buying 24 packs of Coke or soda, like they're always extremely overweight. But like that's like a really easy thing to avoid. If you're being serious about trying to be in shape and be at a healthy weight. However, seed oils require a little more discernment to understand why they're bad, what they're in, and you really need to start getting in the habit of reading ingredient labels and understanding even the culinary practices at restaurants, and that literally all fried foods are fried mostly in seed oils, except there is a shift starting to happen where RFK Jr. has encouraged some restaurants to begin cooking things in beef tallow instead of seed oils. But just to understand what they are, where you find them, how to avoid them, is going to be a big step beyond simply eliminating things like soda and sugar to really eliminate all these sources causing the obesity epidemic from your diet. And so we are going to do a full walkthrough of this diagram, first of all. And, as we go through this, I may bring up other things that obviously exercise is a big factor as well, having a sedentary lifestyle. But the goal here is not to be mean to anyone or insult anyone. The goal here is to get people healthy and to alert people as to this real insidious plan that, I haven't exactly figured out who exactly is behind this. Has been, a long-term general shift by the big food industry and all these big food manufacturers, which we know, of course, is all owned by, like the media, owned by 6 major companies. Big food is owned by some very small number of these big food and consumer product conglomerates. But it has been a slow shift over time that has resulted in a slow transformation of the population since the 1970s into where we are today, with massively out of control obesity epidemic and diabetes epidemic, and a majority or a large portion of the death in our country being caused by heart disease, which is very much connected to these diets and the weight of people, the overweight of people. So without further ado, let's pull up the poster version of this new diagram full screen and do a little bit of a walkthrough. So here it is. And how do you read this from top to bottom? Well, this one's sort of designed from center out. And so it's meant to kind of catch people's eye with this central illustration of like the purple obese man. And this is a little bit of a controversial point here, but this is kind of where the origin idea for this diagram started, was this call out to the viewer that says, hey, fat ass, look over here. And now I know that may be a little off-putting to some people. It may seem a little bit rude. But part of the inspiration of this diagram was an Instagram account called Nathan Sages. And he makes informational reels all about diet and how to be fit, how to not be what he calls a fat ass. And he makes these reels where he imparts some form of dietary advice. And typically the reel ends with him saying, so that I'm not a fat ass, or so that I'm not fat as fuck. And it's kind of a little bit humorous. It's more in the spirit of humor than in the spirit of actually trying to be mean. And this diagram in particular is really in the spirit of just trying to catch people's attention. Most people know that they have a problem, but they don't necessarily have the motivation or the knowledge to know how to fix it.
If you ate beef, seafood, eggs, fruit, raw honey, and raw dairy every single day, you would no longer have low energy, you would no longer have low testosterone, and you would be jacked and shredded. But no, you would rather eat the bullshit snacks and the fast food to be fat as fuck.
And so this is just trying to call people to get their attention, to bring attention to the issue of seed oils in general. And so it kind of starts with this prompt, look over here, and showing that someone's overweight, and the arrows pointing to like it's the seed oils. And then I added towards the end of the process of this diagram this little side note, because thinking about this in retrospect, I almost wish this would have been like more like seed oils and soda and sugar, but I put down here and the sugar because, like I've said a few times now, like the soda and the sugar is a major factor here, especially combined with the seed oils. But then you get this central ring of what has been described in some health circles or health online advice as the Hateful 8 seed oils, which are soybean, canola, corn, safflower, rice bran, sunflower, cottonseed, and grapeseed. And then we have to the right here a few honorable mentions, including vegetable oil blends, which some products labeled vegetable oil in the grocery store are simply pure soybean oil. Some are combinations of canola and safflower, or any type of combination of any of these is considered a vegetable oil blend. And now one other one that's a little bit less commonly used for cooking, but is out there, is peanut oil. And it's also noted down here hydrogenated oils, because sometimes you'll see in ingredients hydrogenated palm oil or something like that. But the hydrogenated oils, whatever it may be, is also considered unhealthy. Now, why are these unhealthy exactly? That you see in like the 4 main bullet points around here, that they have high amounts of omega-6 fatty acids, which can be pro-inflammatory. Now, omega-6 fatty acids, as as a molecule on its own, is not necessarily unhealthy because it's part of the normal diet. However, these particular seed oils contain high amounts of it, and with the amount we're consuming in our diets, we're getting a way excessive amount of omega-6. And to be healthy, you need a proper balance of omega-6 and omega-3. And because people are over consuming these seed oils, which are higher in omega-6, they're getting an excessive amount of omega-6. And that is causing inflammation throughout the entire body. It's pro-inflammatory to have too much of that. And we have this little bullet point here, a little note that was one of the most important notes on the Healing Web as well, that inflammation is at the root of all disease. So if you're living your life perpetually inflamed from your diet, you're more likely to get heart disease, you're more likely to get cancer, you're more likely to have arthritis, you're more likely to have all kinds of joint pains. So it just causes a cascade of other problems. Another reason why these seed oils are bad is because they're high in concentration of linoleic acid, which again, these 3 terms are all sort of synonyms for the same thing, different levels of detail or different terms for the different molecules, but the linoleic acid is part of the problem in these seed oils. And another word for both of those is PUFAs, which is polyunsaturated fatty acids. Some people have suggested, and now I'm not sure, I'm not a microbiologist. I haven't necessarily studied this under a microscope or in live humans, but what is really the cause of all these heart attacks and clogged arteries? Some have suggested that it's not from animal fats that are more natural. Our bodies are made of animal fats, and it's essential for your brain's health to have cholesterol that the health authorities have warned us away from now for decades. But some have suggested that the reason for these clogged arteries really has a lot more to do with the seed oils than with animal fats. Now, that's maybe a conspiracy, maybe just a theory, but these are unhealthy for several other reasons. And so it's worth considering cutting these out of your diet to avoid the clogged arteries. And now another concern with these seed oils, beyond just the linoleic acid, is the process by which they are extracted from the seeds. And this has become a big industry for big agra. And they have created a process for extracting the oil from these crops through a process called hexane extraction, which uses essentially a petroleum product to extract the seed oils from these seeds. And while that is toxic in itself, what they do is essentially evaporate most of it off in the process. And so they claim that it's not a bad amount of it left behind. However, I think me personally, I don't want anything I'm eating to be infused with a petroleum product and just trust that it's been burned off in order to have it be healthy again and not toxic. Hexane is toxic on its own. And so there would only be maybe very trace amounts of it left over in the food. But for me, trace amounts is enough to not even why does that even need to happen? You know what I mean? It does not seem right that they are combining this with hexane, which is similar to butane or any type of other petroleum product in something you're eating, and assuming that it's all been evaporated off, and so therefore it's no longer toxic. The extraction process leaves behind toxic byproducts of a chemical called hexane. Hexane is considered hazardous in gaseous form and may partially evaporate off, still leaving residue within these oils that they're selling, claiming them to be healthy. Now, another sort of technical aspect of how this diagram is laid out is showing the percentage of linoleic acid in these different oils. And now this can be understood probably a little bit more clearly from a different type of chart, more like a bar diagram, which I actually have here. So switching over to this diagram, which was kind of one of the inspirations or sources for my work, is an easier way to see how much linoleic acid is in these different seed oils. Clearly you see here grapeseed oil has the most with 71% linoleic acid, followed by sunflower, corn, soybean, cottonseed, rice bran, peanut, canola. And then these are the final three here are actually considered fruit oils. And I'll get to those later on the diagram. They're not considered as bad as the seed oils, but they have, in like the 10% range. And I'm still trying to figure out what 0 acre is on this diagram. I'll get back to you on that one. But the way I've represented this on my diagram, since, this is, once again, like this is considered a work of art. It's not meant to be necessarily just like a pure infographic. And so this has been stylized. And the way I represent those percentages is with these little droplets. And so you have here 5 droplets on soybean oil indicates 50% linoleic acid, 2 on canola is 20%, 5 again on corn is 50%. And as you see, grapeseed has the most with 70% linoleic acid. And so that's just a little way to like a reference for the percentage of linoleic acid on these different oils. Now also on this diagram, so this is very stylized, as I said, it's almost intended to look like an advertisement for like a new soft drink or like some kind of a food product. And so it's, kind of a little bit tongue in cheek here. It does briefly mention that the original use for these seed oils was as engine lubricant. And I believe that this extraction process was invented in Canada back in the day. And so here we have this section says the fat makers, and it's saying seed oils are found in these food substances. The number one being fried food, and that includes any type of fried food, whether it's fried fish, French fries, a couple foods that people may not even know are fried, such as donuts, chips. Pretty much any chip, any bag of chips you find is fried in seed oils. So it's really hard to avoid. It's a really big shift in diet if you really start avoiding the fried foods, but it really will benefit your health long term. The second one here is pizza, which of course it depends on who you're getting the pizza from. If it's a box pizza from a freezer, yeah, it does probably have seed oils. If it's from Papa John's or who knows, like Pizza Hut. I don't even know if Pizza Hut still exists, but depending on the restaurant, they may not use seed oil, they may use olive oil. But I've literally, I put this here actually from personal experience because at this local pizzeria, which is actually fairly gourmet that I've been to, they have these windows where you can actually watch them making the pizza. And I was there at one point in the process of formulating the ideas for this diagram. And I seen them put down, they spin the pizza in the air, as you've seen, to stretch out the dough. They put it down on the table, and I seen them through this window put the first layer of the pizza down, which is a big old swirl of oil. And I'm not sure which oil they were using, but I'm sure depending on the quality of the pizza house, that may or may not be seed oil. So just to be, pretty much everyone knows that pizza is a fat maker food. It's not necessarily healthy. It's okay if you use really good ingredients to eat it in limited quantities, but in general, that's a fat maker. Next, we have here ranch, which is obviously ranch is like a specific name brand. It's not necessarily just ranch, but we also have further down this list dressing in general, which really is another main source of seed oils. Even fairly, gourmet considered dressings that you'll find in the grocery store, pretty much all have seed oils in them. Chips, again, here next on the list, which could be filed under fried, but we want to mention those specifically since it's so ubiquitous in chips. Cakes we have here, that's really mostly referring to like processed cakes. In the aisle on that grocery store, you'll have that whole section of cakes that come in boxes wrapped in plastic that all of those are going to have seed oils, and I didn't write it here, but I would include under cakes. Cookies is another big one that always has these seed oils in them. I wrote here PB&J. Now we're really just talking about the PB that has the seed oils, but peanut butter, other types of nut butters very often have seed oils blended into them. Margarine, we've already discussed dressing. Sauce in general is another really big one, especially from restaurants. Like anytime you're getting a sauce with anything, you want to be checking to see if it has these seed oils in it, because very often it will. And then last on the list, and possibly most despicably, is formula, which is baby formula. And someone had the terrible idea that a good substitute for mother's milk would be industrial seed oil, combined with hexane to feed to a baby, which is really just asinine. So we have another little prologue here that was actually adapted from one of my sources for this information, which says here, the food industry loves low-cost seed oils and claims them to be heart healthy, but this claim lacks robust scientific backing. Research suggests that seed oils pose significant health risks and may be partially responsible for the obesity epidemic. Seed oils are high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, acronym for PUFAs, especially linoleic acid, constituting over 50% of most seed oils. Linoleic acid can accumulate in the body over time, potentially raising the risk of chronic health conditions. So I kind of already walked through that, but that's kind of where it says it on this actual diagram. And here we have just a little bit about the industry of seed oils, that industrial seed oils are cheap and cost efficient. They have a high smoking point, and they're quite profitable for big food and big agra. And it's also profitable for big pharma, because once people become obese and have health conditions, there's an aftermarket for treating all those health conditions, including surgeries such as gastric bypass and weight loss drugs such as Ozempic, as well as all the treatments for heart disease and a dozen other things that come with widespread inflammation throughout the body, as well as being overweight. It's just a slippery slope into a huge amount of medical expenses. So we're really getting through this pretty quickly. It's mentioned here a preservative that's often used in seed oils such as Crisco and margarine, which is TBHQ, which is obviously just a toxic chemical that is known to possibly cause immune system harm. And it's put into these processed foods with seed oils as an anti-rancidity agent. So they put in the preservative so that it will have a longer shelf life and not go rancid. And a lot of these things are put in the grocery store unrefrigerated, and so that is necessary. So aside from just clogged arteries, we have a little list here of the associated conditions of overconsumption of seed oils, as well as obesity, which is obesity, heart disease, cancer, dementia. Lard is a little bit more tongue-in-cheek here. It's essentially the same thing as saying obesity, and of course, death. Now, on the left side, we have the Soy Boy 101 protocol, which is abridged, of course. There's much more that I could have included in this section, but just briefly, some other things besides seed oils that are contributing to obesity, unhealthiness, and general soy boy within boys and girls are soda pop, of course, I would say diet and regular. And of course, since the substitution of sugar in our soda pops for high fructose corn syrup is worse than sugar. I mean, I think sugar on its own is bad, but the high fructose corn syrup makes it even worse. And then the artificial sweeteners included in a lot of the different diet sodas, aspartame and sucralose, are both toxic as well. Psych medications, including benzodiazepines and several others. That's a very abridged list. The use of the microwave, which is really kind of, I believe, an American thing. I have heard microwaves are banned in Russia. I would like to get confirmation on that. But there's our school of thought that says that microwaving your food denatures the protein in your food and turns it from if it even was healthy to begin with, it turns it into essentially nutrientless slop. And there's also people who say that if you do an experiment of microwaving the water that you give to plants before feeding that water to plants, even letting that water cool back down to room temperature, because it has been microwaved, that water, if you feed a plant exclusively microwaved room temperature water, that plant will die because of the structure in the water has essentially been denatured in the microwave. So I don't use a microwave for anything. My microwave literally stays unplugged. My only use for a microwave is if I want to put my cell phone in the microwave to have an ideal Faraday cage, obviously not turning it on with the cell phone in there, but that is really the only use for microwave. And I think it is a travesty and a crime that virtually all homes and apartments come with microwaves, and that there has been so little warning to the general public in America of the possible health effects of microwaving your food. Next on the list here is artificial flavor, some of those including MSG, BHT, and artificial dyes, which of course we know RFK Jr. has already put a ban on, which is great news. And last on the list here, which has become so popular just in the past 5 or 10 years, is vaping and vape juice, which the main component of vape juice is propylene glycol, which is a substance also found in antifreeze. And now there is food grade propylene glycol versus antifreeze grade propylene glycol. But either way, I mean, I think we can all pretty much understand why vaping is not the best for health in any way. Now, just a little disclaimer here. Of course, we have to add the disclaimer that this diagram is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. And on the right here, we have a section that is titled Approved Oils. Now, even saying approved oils, some health and fitness influencers would contend with that. But generally, I mean, this whole diagram is sort of the general prevailing public opinion among healthy people, among fitness influencers of the day in 2025. Of course, opinions do change over time and more research comes out or not over time. But, there's certain things that humans have been doing for centuries that have been essentially proven to be okay for your health. Among those being like some of these standard oils like olive oil and coconut oil, and the process of cold pressed oils as opposed to hexane extraction oils. So under the approved oils are oils that are considered fruit oils as opposed to seed oils. And the most common ones that you find in diet, of course, being olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, and palm oil. And once again, you have to watch out for if it's a hydrogenated oil. I have seen on ingredient labels hydrogenated palm oil. That would not be considered healthy. It's only considered healthy if it is cold pressed, which it says here, cold pressing retains plant-based compounds that benefit health, but also make the oils more expensive and prone to smoking at high heat. And of course, you also want to only get oils that are USDA organic. And now the big trend these days, especially with fitness influencers, is substituting all plant oils for animal fats instead. So the more traditional cooking fats such as butter, lard, tallow, and ghee. So personally, if I'm cooking, I'll either use butter or coconut oil. I don't really cook with olive oil. I've heard other things about, you shouldn't put like olive oils up to a certain heat for different reasons, like that it denatures the molecules and turns them toxic. I've definitely heard that coconut oil is the best for cooking. It's also good as just a supplement. Oil pulling, putting it in your mouth, swishing it around for 10 minutes, spitting it out is a way of detoxifying. Like I said, yeah, I cook with butter, and I would really only use olive oil like as a salad dressing, maybe. Like if I get a salad, I like to have olive oil and balsamic vinaigrette as the dressing, as opposed to any of those creamy type ranch or like blue cheese dressing, all those different creamy ones, is kind of Fatmakers. Going back up to the top here, the Fatmakers do include like dressings and ranch. So those are, it's really sad seeing a lot of people that want to lose weight eating salads all the time. But these salads are just absolutely slathered in these dressings that are the culprit keeping them overweight. So it's like they're trying to do the right thing, but they're just not doing it quite right. And last thing on this list is the special thanks to some of the influencers that have inspired this diagram and this information. So special thanks to RFK Jr., Heart and Soil Company, which is where I got the diagram I showed on the other page of the linoleic acid content of oils. And then some of my own personal inspirations that have led me to this information. Of course, Nathan Sage's Dakota Mays with Bioculture, which is the retreat I went to, and CVC Wellness, which is Christian Vanderkamp, who's another one that puts out a lot of good, interesting information about how our modern American diet has been the cause of so much of this toxicity and the obesity epidemic. So that is the poster version of the diagram. Like I said, you see it right behind me here. It comes 18 by 24. Like, it's a little bit smaller than some of our other poster size you see. Standard poster size here is 24 by 36. And so it's a little bit smaller because it's a little bit less information. It has plenty big font for everyone to read. And so I want to just show you guys a couple of the other products that we have developed. This was a pretty big artwork launch. We don't always have like the t-shirt, the shorts, like the print, everything all at once. But this one we do. I was really passionate about, I really liked the way this artwork turned out. I really liked the neon yellow and black color scheme. And so I was personally eager to get the t-shirt. And if we're doing the t-shirt, why not do the tank top? Why not do the shorts? So we got it all. And so this is the 8.5 by 11 print version, which will be included in the D.S.M.P Ultimate Health Packet starting now. I guess I haven't updated the product yet, but starting probably next week, this will be included in the health packet. It will not be included in the Intel packet because this is considered more like niche information. I did add a somewhat humorous, but actually I believe serious note on the back of this flyer, which says reptilians prefer Kobe human. I've often wondered, besides the goal of keeping people unhealthy and racking up higher medical bills, like what is the cabal's goal of creating this obesity epidemic, other than just creating fat, lazy people that won't revolt against the government? But I do have a theory that part of the obesity epidemic may be actually to serve the interests of extraterrestrials, to feed reptilians, which we know, reptilians have been the entities sort of controlling the cabal at the highest level. Don't know, exactly how many are on Earth, are in the underground bases, or if they really are somehow funneling these obese corpses to them for some reason. But if humanity is considered livestock by these reptilians, it is conceivable to me that this obesity epidemic has been engineered for their dietary preferences. And so that's a little bit far out there, I know, but that's what it is, or that's what it might be, let's say. Now, one other thing I want to show you guys, which is kind of really a side note here, but I developed this this is just an artistic note here, but I developed this metal version of the seed oil logo or insignia that I thought might end up going on the front of the diagram, but it sort of was too many different fonts going on. And so currently now it's only on the back of the flyer, and you'll see it on the t-shirt version in a second here. So that's the flyer version. It's two-sided, and eventually we'll offer it laminated as well. This is the t-shirt version, which I thought this diagram turned out beautifully on the t-shirt. We did change the terminology in the center there because we don't want you walking around with a t-shirt like calling everybody a fat ass, because people might get offended in person by that. And so we changed the verbiage on the t-shirt to just say, "Why am I so fat?" So it's a little less aggressive. And so here it is on the AI generated model. and the back with the big seed oils logo there on the top. I really like how this turned out. I've already been wearing this, actually. If you follow my Instagram, you see me wear it out to brunch for the first time this week, which was fun. And then these are the athletic shorts, which I actually put the artwork from the back of the flyer on the front of the athletic shorts because I just loved the look of, RFK Jr. staring out at you, at everyone else at the gym, and this wireframe obese man. And I like these like floating seed oil bottles, which actually, if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen I did a pretty unique photo shoot of actually buying these seed oils and hanging them from a string, from a fishing wire on the ceiling, and doing a photo shoot of them like spinning around in front of a black velvet backdrop. And so I actually, did that photography myself, which was fun. And then on the back of the shorts is actually the front of the diagram. So the shorts is not like the full information. It's more of like for artistic value, and you get bits and pieces of the information and might spark a conversation with someone at the gym about this. And so it's all just a lot of fun. Like I said from the beginning, we're not trying to insult anyone or call them a fat ass to be mean. We're kind of trying to like light the fire under their ass to get people motivated to get in shape, correct your diet, work out, be healthy. Because, there's just so many reasons to. Longer life, more prosperity, better children. You can do more. You'll enjoy life more. You'll have more self-confidence. And nobody wants to be poisoned, especially when this poison has been so insidiously slipped into our food supply with so much misinformation. A lot of these foods with seed oils are literally labeled a big old wording on the top, like heart healthy, which is really probably the opposite of what they are. And so we're trying to raise awareness, help the public, help the population, help the world, and slowly transition back to a more healthy diet that's more natural, does not have to use hexane to extract these things from these huge cash crops. There's all kinds of issues. And I've even heard there might be issues with, monocropping and draining all the nutrients out of the soil because of these huge crops. And we need to go back to a more traditional diet and lifestyle. So that is the seed oil map. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you're going to be inspired to try to remove this from your diet, which I really have. It was really for me after that bioculture retreat in Mexico that I went to back in May 2024 that I came back from that and I was like, I was still eating crackers with seed oils in them. I wasn't eating a whole ton of seed oils, but I was eating crackers with seed oils in them. And I was like, this is over. So I started buying different crackers that are a lot drier and not quite as tasty. But you know what? Sometimes you got to give up what tastes better for what is going to be healthier for your body and going to let you live a longer, happier life ultimately. So that was my seed oil journey, and I'm pretty much I try to be 100% seed oil free. Sometimes when you're going to restaurants and you don't know, you can ask the staff or the hostess, to check on something for you, to ask if it is or not. You guys have probably also heard of the app Seed Oil Scout, which is an app you can get in the App Store. Unfortunately, I think that is a paid app to get really all of its features, but you can also try asking AI, which I've done a few times recently, asking AI, like, what are the restaurants in my area that are seed oil free? And actually, I asked AI that for my area here in Cincinnati. And one of the restaurants that came up on the list was one that I actually regularly go to with my mom to go out to dinner. And next time I went to that restaurant, I noticed on their menu, they actually had a little insignia on the menu saying, like, this is a seed oil free restaurant. We fry all of our French fries in beef tallow and, use animal-based or, olive oil for everything on the menu. And so that's cool to see that there is this awareness that's rising up in our culture. And, when people stop consuming this crap and it just sits on the shelf and no one's buying it, then, they're not going to keep producing it. We're going to drive these companies making these toxic products out of business. And that the void will be filled by people, doing proper cold press extraction, or using animal fats instead of seed oils. And so, maybe our understanding will change in the future, but that's where we're at this point. And, the people that are agreeing with all this information that I've given you in this video are some of the most healthy people out there on the internet, sharing information about their diets, their lifestyle, and what they believe is healthy versus unhealthy. And of course, you look at these officials from like the European, the Netherlands health commissioner, and all these different health commissioners in the US and stuff, other than RFK Jr. And what can we say? Like, they're fat as fuck. It's like, you want to take health advice from people who are actually healthy, not from people that are taking payoffs from big agra and big food. So that is this new seed oil map from D.S.M.P. You get it at dsmp.io. It might help if you're on the website if you're in the new product section, to sort by latest. If you're in the posters, sort by latest, as opposed, because my website is by default sorted by most popular. And so new products, unfortunately, start at the end of the list, but there is that option to sort it by most latest. As you could also search for seed oils on the search bar on the homepage. So check it out, share this video, share this information. Let's end the obesity epidemic and make America healthy again. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with more diagrams. Hopefully 2 more this year is my goal, so we'll see if that happens. So we'll see you guys later. Happy healing, stay healthy, and see you later. New Templars.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the future of finance. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
What storm is it, President?
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Just now we saw a black triangular craft fly just right through those 2 mountains.
And how far we're willing to go to fight to keep it there.